You have 24 hours. You can't do this.
This isn't a threat, it's a fact.
They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I prefer mine scalding hot, with a side of public humiliation and a garnish of social media destruction. My name is Nate Roscoe, and 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. Custom renovated lakeside home outside Portland, successful contracting business, Instagram perfect wife, and a 14-year-old son who still thought I hung the moon. Turns out, perfect lives are like those fancy show homes. Beautiful on the surface, but dig a little deeper and you'll find the foundation is rotten. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started with Claire's girls' trip to Cabo. My wife of 16 years, suddenly obsessed with yoga retreats and finding herself. She'd been posting these carefully curated selfies, sun-kissed skin, designer bikinis, inspirational quotes about new beginnings, the kind of content that gets suburban moms clicking heart emojis while secretly hating their own lives. But I'm an ex-cop turned contractor. I noticed details, like how the backgrounds in her photos didn't match the resort she claimed to be staying at, or how that candid shot of her laughing at sunset had a distinctly masculine arm reaching for a beer bottle in the corner. "Dad, Mom's being weird again," my son Alex said one evening, looking up from his homework. The kid inherited my observational skills and his mother's stubborn streak, a dangerous combination. "Weird how?" I asked, though I already suspected. She keeps texting about how she's discovering her authentic self and needs space to grow. Alex made air quotes, his voice dripping with teenage sarcasm. "Since when does Mom care about being authentic? She bought a designer water bottle last week because it matched her gym outfit. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes." The truth hit me like a sledgehammer to the gut when I opened our shared iCloud account to download some family photos. There it was, the uncropped version of Claire's solo sunset selfie. Tyler Barnes, her new business partner at the PR firm, wasn't just reaching for that beer. He was shirtless, tan, and wearing the same smug expression he'd perfected during our brief encounters at neighborhood barbecues. Tyler Ty Barnes. 32 years old, drives a BMW, married to a sharp woman named Reese who runs the local book club, the kind of guy who calls everyone bro and thinks a firm handshake makes up for having the personality of wet cardboard. Claire had introduced him as her creative collaborator 6 months ago when they started the PR firm together. Creative collaboration. Right. I sat in my home office staring at that photo for a solid 10 minutes. Not because I was heartbroken, though that would come later, but because I was genuinely impressed by the sheer stupidity of it all. If you're going to cheat on your husband, maybe don't use his iCloud family plan to store the evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Having such an amazing time. This retreat is exactly what I needed. Love you." I screenshot the message and saved it right next to the uncropped photo. Evidence. Old habits die hard. That night, I did what any rational, tech-savvy ex-cop would do. I sent the uncropped photo to Reese Barnes with a simple message. "Thought you should see what your husband's been collaborating on." The response came within minutes. Not from Reese, but from Tyler's phone. "You son of a bitch." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Truth hurts, doesn't it, bro? What followed was better than any reality TV show. Reese, armed with photographic evidence and 16 years of marriage-tested fury, launched a social media campaign that would make political strategists weep with envy. She tagged Claire in every post, shared the photos with captions like, "When you find out your husband's business trips include more than business," and somehow managed to get Tucker, Claire, and Tyler trending in our local Facebook groups. Claire's best friend Haley, a woman whose entire personality revolves around knowing everyone's business, sent a panicked voice note to their group chat that I intercepted through Claire's iPad. "Claire, you need to call me now. You're trending, and not in a good way." Reese Barnes just posted screenshots of Tyler's credit card statements. Cabo was definitely not a solo trip. I was almost starting to feel sorry for Claire. Almost. She came home 2 days early, storming through our front door like a hurricane in designer workout clothes. Her carefully curated tan couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. "We need to talk," she announced, dropping her Louis Vuitton suitcase in the foyer. "I'm sure we do," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "How was your solo retreat?" "Very enlightening, I hear." The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Claire had always been good at reading people. It made her excellent at PR, but she'd forgotten that I'd been reading people professionally long before she learned to spin narratives for corporate clients. "Nate, I can explain." Can you? Because I'm genuinely curious about this explanation. Does it involve spiritual awakening, finding your authentic self, or maybe some creative collaboration with your business partner? Her face went through several expressions, surprise, anger, calculation, before settling on wounded innocence. It was a masterful performance, really. Too bad I'd already seen the director's cut. You went through my phone? She accused. Your phone? No. Our shared iCloud account that you forgot you were connected to? Absolutely. I finally looked up at her. If you're going to have an affair, Claire, at least have the courtesy to be competent about it. That's when she shifted tactics. The wounded wife routine wasn't working, so she went for righteous indignation. You had no right to send that photo to Reese. You've humiliated me in front of the entire neighborhood. I humiliated you? I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. Claire, you humiliated yourself. I just provided the documentation. She was gearing up for a full-scale argument when Alex appeared at the top of the stairs, clearly having heard everything. Claire's expression softened instantly. The loving mother act was her strongest performance. Alex, sweetheart, your father and I are just having a discussion about some grown-up things. Is it true? Alex asked, his voice smaller than usual. About you and Mr. Barnes? The question hung in the air like smoke. Claire looked between us, probably calculating which answer would cause the least damage to her carefully constructed narrative. It's complicated, honey. No, I said firmly. It's not complicated at all. Your mother had an affair. She lied about it. She got caught. The only complicated part is what happens next. Claire's mask finally slipped completely. You bastard! You're going to turn my own son against me? I don't need to turn him against you, Claire. You did that all by yourself. That night, after Claire stormed out to stay at Haley's house, I found something that changed everything. Hidden in her gym bag, the one she'd forgotten to take on her spiritual retreat, was a burner phone I'd never seen before. The text messages told a story that made the affair look like a minor plot point. Tyler wasn't just sleeping with my wife, they were planning to destroy me. Screenshots of conversations about getting rid of the extra weight, discussions about stealing my business clients, and worst of all, detailed plans for a domestic abuse claim that would leave me with nothing. I sat in my garage workshop, scrolling through months of messages, feeling something cold and calculating settle in my chest. They weren't just cheating, they were plotting. The affair was just the opening move in a much bigger game. Tyler. Once we get him out of the house, the business contacts are easy to transfer. Most of them know me through the firm anyway. Claire. What about Alex? Tyler. Kids believe what their mothers tell them, especially when their fathers are dangerous. Claire. The bruises will be easy enough to fake. Haley and Morgan will back up whatever story I tell. Tyler. By the time we're done, Nate Roscoe won't have a friend, a business, or a reputation left in this town. I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. They wanted to play games. They wanted to ruin me. Perfect. I love a good challenge. I opened my laptop and started making lists. Client contacts, mutual friends, social media connections. Every person in Tyler and Claire's carefully constructed social network. Every reputation they'd built, every relationship they valued, every public image they'd crafted. If they wanted to destroy me, they should have done their homework first. Because there's one thing worse than an angry ex-cop with nothing to lose. An angry ex-cop with construction skills, technical knowledge, and a very detailed understanding of how to make someone's life fall apart without breaking a single law. My wife was plotting against me. She just forgot that I'm better at it than she is. The next morning brought the kind of crisp Oregon autumn that makes tourists think about relocating, and locals remember why they never left. I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when Claire returned with reinforcements, Haley Morrison and Morgan Pierce, her loyal disciples in the Church of Suburban Drama. Haley's the kind of woman who considers gossip a competitive sport and has never met a rumor she couldn't embellish. Morgan's quieter but twice as vicious, with the calculating smile of someone who's perfected the art of plausible deniability. Together, they formed Claire's personal PR team, ready to spin any narrative in her favor. Nate, Claire announced, sweeping into my kitchen like she was making a grand entrance at a charity gala. We need to discuss the arrangements. Arrangements? I asked, not bothering to look up from my newspaper. Are we planning a funeral? Because something certainly died here. Haley snorted, a sound that somehow conveyed both amusement and disdain. Claire told us about your little tantrum yesterday. Very mature, Nate. Really showed your true colors. My true colors? I finally looked up, meeting her gaze with the flat stare I'd perfected during my police days. Which colors would those be, Haley? The color of a man who doesn't appreciate being lied to, or the color of someone who objects to his wife planning to frame him for domestic abuse? The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Morgan's smile flickered, and Haley's confidence wavered just enough to be noticeable. "I don't know what you're talking about," Claire said, but her voice had that slightly higher pitch that meant she was lying. I pulled out the burner phone and set it on the kitchen island between us. "This yours?" Claire's face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Your gym bag. You know, the one you forgot to take on your spiritual retreat." I scrolled through the messages, reading them aloud. "The bruises will be easy enough to fake. Haley and Morgan will back up whatever story I tell." "That's quite a story, Claire. Very creative, very collaborative." Haley stepped forward, her face flushed with indignation. "You can't just go through Claire's private things. That's probably illegal." "Actually, it's not. Abandoned property in my own home? Fair game." I looked at Morgan, who'd been suspiciously quiet. "What about you, Morgan? Ready to commit perjury for your friend? Because that's what we're talking about here." Morgan suddenly found something fascinating about her manicure. Smart woman. "You're twisting everything," Claire said, but the fight was going out of her voice. "Those messages, they're taken out of context." "What context makes planning false domestic abuse charges acceptable, Claire? I'm genuinely curious about the mental gymnastics required for that rationalization." That's when Alex appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over his shoulder, ready for school. He took in the scene, his mother flanked by her friends, his father holding a phone like evidence in a trial, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "Is this about the affair?" he asked with the brutal directness that only teenagers can manage. "Alex, honey," Claire started, shifting into her motherly voice. "This is between grown-ups." "I'm 14, not 4, Alex interrupted. "Half my class already knows about you and Mr. Barnes. Jenny Morrison showed everyone the Facebook posts." He looked at Haley. "Your daughter has a big mouth, by the way." Haley's face turned an interesting shade of purple. "How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Seems to be in short supply around here lately." I felt a surge of pride watching my son handle himself. The kid had backbone. "Alex," I said quietly, "you're going to be late for school." He nodded, then looked at his mother with an expression that was pure disappointment. "Mom, I really hope whatever this was worth it, because you're losing everything for it." After Alex left, the kitchen fell silent except for the ticking of the antique clock Claire had insisted on buying last year. Finally, Claire spoke. "I want you out of the house." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I want you gone. Today." "This is my house, Claire. I built it. My name's on the deed. My money paid for every custom detail you insisted on." I gestured around the kitchen. "That marble countertop you had to have? I installed it myself. Those cabinets you picked out from that boutique place in Portland? I hung every one of them. You want me out of my own house?" "We'll see what a lawyer says about that," Morgan finally spoke up, her voice carrying the false confidence of someone who's watched too many legal dramas. "Please, by all means, call a lawyer," I said. "I'd love to have a professional opinion on attempted fraud, adultery, and conspiracy to file false police reports. Should make for an interesting consultation." Claire gathered what remained of her dignity and headed for the door. "This isn't over, Nate." "No," I agreed. "It's really not." After they left, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking about strategy. Claire had made her first move by trying to kick me out of my own house. Now it was my turn. I started with Tyler's BMW. Beautiful car, really. Midnight blue, leather interior, the kind of vehicle that announces to the world that its owner has arrived. Tyler parked it in the gym parking lot every morning at 6:30 sharp, part of his rigorous routine of self-improvement and image maintenance. The gym, Elite Fitness, was one of those places where people went to be seen as much as to work out. Glass walls, state-of-the-art equipment, and a juice bar that charged $15 for a protein smoothie. Tyler held court there most mornings, dispensing fitness advice and business wisdom to anyone who'd listen. I'd been a member for 3 years, long enough to know the patterns, the schedules, the social dynamics, long enough to know that Tyler's workout routine was as much about networking as it was about maintaining his carefully sculpted physique. Wednesday morning, I arrived at the gym early. Tyler's BMW sat in its usual spot, gleaming under the parking lot lights. I walked past it twice, checking for security cameras, timing the foot traffic, planning my approach. Then I went inside and worked out. Normal routine, normal behavior. I even nodded to Tyler when he arrived, all smiles and artificial enthusiasm. "Nate, good to see you, man. How's the contracting business?" "Can't complain," I replied, maintaining eye contact. How's the collaboration business? His smile faltered just slightly. Good. Real good. Claire and I make a great team. I'm sure you do. I finished my workout and left through the front entrance, making sure the desk staff saw me go. Then I circled around to the parking lot through the back entrance of the adjacent strip mall. Tyler's BMW was still there, pristine and perfect. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of it, time-stamped and geotagged. Then I got to work. I didn't key the car, too obvious, too easily traced. Instead, I did something much more creative. I'd brought a cooler full of fish from the market, the kind that had been sitting in the sun for just a little too long. I carefully opened Tyler's car using the lockout tools I'd kept from my police days, a skill that comes in handy more often than you'd think. The fish went under the seats, in the air vents, and tucked into every crevice where they wouldn't be immediately visible, but would make their presence known very, very quickly, especially once the car sat in the sun for a few hours. Then I locked the car back up and drove home. My phone rang around noon. Tyler, sounding less than his usual confident self. Nate, we need to talk. Do we? About what? You know damn well about what. My car reeks like a fish market. You think this is funny? Your car smells like fish? That's weird. Maybe you should check your air freshener or your cologne. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. You son of a bitch. Tyler, I'm going to stop you right there. I've been home all morning. Ask my neighbors. Better yet, check the gym's security footage. You'll see me leave through the front door at 8:15. After that, I came straight home. Which was technically true. I just made a little detour. This isn't over, Tyler said, echoing his girlfriend's words from the day before. Funny, that's exactly what Claire said. You two really do think alike. Must be that creative collaboration at work. That evening, I got a call from my friend Dave Martinez, a detective with the Portland PD who'd been my partner back in the day. Dave had the kind of dry humor that made him excellent company and the kind of cynical worldview that made him an effective cop. Heard you're having some domestic troubles, he said without preamble. News travels fast. Small town? Big mouths? You okay? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. That's what worries me. I know that tone, Nate. That's your I'm planning something voice. I'm not planning anything illegal, Dave. That's not what I asked. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. No, I'm not okay. My wife cheated on me, tried to kick me out of my own house, and apparently planned to frame me for domestic abuse. So no, I'm not okay, but I'm handling it. How are you handling it? Carefully, legally, and with a deep appreciation for the therapeutic value of public humiliation. Dave sighed. Just be smart about it, okay? Whatever you're planning, make sure you can live with the consequences. Oh, I can live with the consequences just fine. It's Tyler and Claire who should be worried about that. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and started browsing Craigslist. Tyler Barnes was about to discover that reputation management works both ways. And unlike Claire's PR firm, I offered my services free of charge. The fake job posting went live at midnight. Seeking personal trainer for exclusive private sessions, discretion required. Must be comfortable with non-traditional workout methods, serious inquiries only. Contact Tyler Barnes at... followed by his personal phone number. Within 6 hours, Tyler's phone would be ringing off the hook with very interesting job offers. The kind that would make him question everything he thought he knew about online privacy and the power of targeted harassment. But that was just the opening move. The real game was about to begin. Tyler's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Thursday morning. I know this because he called me at 6:15, his voice raw with exhaustion and rage. You posted my number on Craigslist, you psycho! Did I? That's terrible. Identity theft is a serious crime. You should report it to the police. I paused, sipping my coffee. What kind of job was it advertising? You know damn well what kind. He stopped, probably realizing he was about to describe some very compromising job offers on a recorded line. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, Tyler. But if someone's impersonating you online, that sounds like a problem for law enforcement. Or maybe your PR firm could help with reputation management? The line went silent. By Thursday afternoon, Tyler had received over 200 calls. I know because Mrs. Stokes, my 70-year-old neighbor who considered surveillance her civic duty, kept me updated on his comings and goings. That Barnes boy looks terrible, she reported over the fence while I was working in my garden. Dark circles under his eyes, jumping every time his phone rings. His wife threw a suitcase out their front door this morning, hit his BMW right in the windshield. Marriage troubles, I said sympathetically. Terrible thing. Indeed, though I can't say I'm surprised. A man who cheats on his wife will lie about anything. Mrs. Stokes had been married for 47 years and had strong opinions about marital fidelity. She also had a Facebook account with 3,000 local followers and a talent for making observations go viral. That evening, Claire showed up at my door again, this time alone. She looked like she hadn't slept, which gave me a small surge of satisfaction. "We need to talk," she said. "We talked yesterday, and the day before. I'm starting to think you don't listen very well." "Nate, please, can I come in?" Against my better judgment, I led her into the living room. She sat on the edge of our old couch, the one she'd been planning to replace with something more Instagram-worthy, and tried to look vulnerable. "This has gotten out of hand," she began. "Has it? Because from where I sit, things are just getting started. Tyler's wife left him. His job is reviewing his contract because of harassment complaints. The gym canceled his membership." She looked up at me with what might have been genuine distress. "You're destroying his life." "Am I? Because I haven't done anything to Tyler except exist in the same town where his poor life choices are catching up with him." "Don't play dumb, Nate. I know you posted his number online." "Can you prove that?" She stared at me for a long moment, probably trying to reconcile this version of me with the man she'd been married to for 16 years, the man who used to fix her problems, smooth over her mistakes, and generally make her life easier. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want my wife back. The one I married, the one who wouldn't cheat on me and then try to frame me for domestic abuse." I leaned back in my chair. "But that woman doesn't exist anymore, does she? So I guess I want the truth. All of it." "The truth about what?" "How long has this been going on? Was Tyler always part of the plan, or did you recruit him later? And whose idea was the domestic abuse angle? Yours or his?" Claire's composure cracked slightly. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen?" "You were supposed to be easier, more predictable." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Tyler said you'd just roll over, take whatever settlement we offered, maybe move somewhere quiet and start over." "Tyler doesn't know me very well." "No," she agreed quietly. "He doesn't." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, I could hear the neighborhood settling into evening routines, kids being called in for dinner, dogs barking, the distant sound of someone mowing their lawn. "What happens now?" Claire asked. "Now? Now you get to find out what happens when you pick a fight with someone who has nothing left to lose." She left without another word. Friday morning brought an interesting development. Alex came down to breakfast with his laptop, grinning in a way that reminded me of myself at his age. "Dad, you need to see this." He turned the screen toward me, showing a Facebook post from Jenny Morrison, Haley's daughter and Alex's classmate. The post had been shared 43 times and had over 100 comments. "So, my mom's friend, Mrs. Roscoe, is having an affair with this guy, Mr. Barnes, and now Mr. Barnes's wife is posting all their private messages on Instagram. It's like watching a reality show, but with people I actually know. Also, Mr. Barnes's car smells like rotten fish, and nobody knows why. Adults are weird." The comments were a goldmine of neighborhood gossip, speculation, and judgment. Several people had shared their own stories about Tyler's behavior at the gym, his aggressive sales tactics, and his general reputation as someone who thought he was more important than he actually was. "This is going viral," Alex said with obvious satisfaction. "Jenny's post has been shared to like 6 different neighborhood groups." "How do you feel about all this?" I asked, suddenly concerned that my son was enjoying the destruction of his mother's reputation a little too much. Alex's expression grew more serious. "Honestly, I'm mad at Mom. Really mad. But I'm also kind of proud of you for not just rolling over and taking it." "Your mother's still your mother, Alex. Whatever happens between us doesn't change that." "I know, but she lied to both of us, Dad. And she was planning to lie to the police about you. That's not okay." "Smart kid. Too smart, maybe." That afternoon, Tyler made his biggest mistake yet. He showed up at my house. I was in my garage workshop working on a custom cabinet for a client when I heard the BMW pull into my driveway. The engine sounded rough. Probably needed a good cleaning to get rid of that lingering fish smell. Tyler walked into my garage without invitation, his usual swagger replaced by something more desperate. "This ends now," he announced. I didn't look up from my work. "What ends?" "The harassment, the phone calls, the online posts. All of it." "I'm not sure what you're talking about, Tyler. I've been right here, working on this cabinet. Beautiful piece, isn't it? Cherry wood, hand-carved details. The client's paying top dollar for craftsmanship like this." "Cut the shit, Nate. I know it's you." "You know what's me? Being in my own garage, working on my own projects, minding my own business." I finally looked at him. "Because that's all I've been doing." Tyler stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his gym-enhanced physique. "You think you're clever, don't you, hiding behind technicalities and plausible deniability? I think I'm a man whose wife cheated on him with a narcissistic wannabe who thought he could destroy my life without consequences. I set down my tools and gave him my full attention. How's that working out for you, by the way? My marriage is over because of you. Your marriage is over because you cheated on your wife with mine. I just provided the documentation. Tyler's face flushed red. You son of a bitch. Tyler, I'm going to give you some free advice. You're standing in my garage, on my property, using threatening language toward me. I have security cameras recording this entire conversation. If you're smart, and the jury's still out on that, you'll leave now. He looked around, noticing the cameras for the first time. Small red lights blinked from 3 different angles, capturing everything. This isn't over, he said, but the fight had gone out of his voice. You know, everyone keeps saying that, but from where I stand, it looks pretty over. Your wife left you. Your job's in jeopardy. Your gym membership's canceled. Your car smells like a seafood processing plant. And all because you couldn't keep it in your pants. Tyler turned to leave, then stopped. What about Claire? Are you going to destroy her too? I don't need to destroy Claire, I said quietly. She's doing a fine job of that herself. After he left, I called Dave. Tyler Barnes just threatened me in my own garage, I reported. Threatened how? Verbally. Implied physical violence. I've got it all on camera. You want to press charges? Not yet, but I want it documented, just in case. You're playing a dangerous game, Nate. No, Dave. I'm playing a smart game. There's a difference. That weekend, Claire made her final desperate play. She showed up Sunday morning while Alex was at a friend's house, dressed in the kind of outfit that had always worked on me before, sundress, minimal makeup, the vulnerable look that used to make me want to protect her from the world. I made a mistake, she said simply. Which mistake? The affair, the lying, or the planning to frame me for domestic abuse? All of it. I made terrible choices, and I'm sorry. She moved closer, using the body language that had once been second nature between us. We could fix this, Nate. We could go to counseling, work things out. For Alex's sake, if nothing else. For a moment, I almost believed her. Almost remembered why I'd fallen in love with her in the first place. Then I thought about the burner phone, the messages, the casual cruelty of their plans. Claire, if you were actually sorry, you would have come clean before I found the evidence. You would have ended the affair before I exposed it. You would have told me the truth before I had to discover it myself. I'm telling you the truth now. No, you're trying to minimize the damage. There's a difference. She tried a different approach, moving close enough that I could smell her perfume, the expensive stuff I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. Don't you miss this? Miss us? I miss the woman I thought you were. But that woman never existed, did she? She was just another PR campaign. Claire's mask slipped, revealing the calculation underneath. Fine, but you should know. Tyler and I aren't done. We have lawyers now. Good ones. I'm sure you do. I hope they're better at their jobs than you were at covering your tracks. She left, and I knew it would be the last time she'd try the reconciliation angle. From here on out, it would be all-out war. I was looking forward to it. Monday morning, I did something I should have done weeks ago. I hired my own lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Margaret Chen, a family law attorney with a reputation for taking no prisoners and a win rate that made other lawyers nervous. Margaret's office occupied the top floor of a downtown Portland high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a commanding view of the city. She was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, and had the kind of sharp intelligence that made you grateful she was on your side. Mr. Roscoe, she said, reviewing the documents I'd brought, you've been thorough. Old habits. The burner phone messages are particularly damning. Conspiracy to file false police reports, attempted fraud, adultery with documentary evidence. She looked up at me over her reading glasses. Your wife and her partner made some very poor choices. What are my options? Divorce, obviously. Full custody of your son, given the evidence of your wife's instability and willingness to involve him in fraudulent schemes. As for assets, the prenup your wife signed is ironclad. She gets nothing from the business, minimal spousal support, and no claim to the house. She signed a prenup? A very comprehensive one, according to your records. Drawn up when you bought the house 5 years ago, and she insisted on being added to the deed. Margaret smiled. Apparently, she didn't read it very carefully. I remembered that day. Claire had been so excited about officially being a co-owner of our dream home that she'd signed everything our lawyer put in front of her. She'd been more interested in planning the housewarming party than reviewing legal documents. There's more, Margaret continued. If we can prove she was planning to defraud you through false domestic abuse claims, she could face criminal charges. That would affect any custody arrangement significantly. What do you need from me? Keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Document everything, stay within the law, and let them make mistakes. She leaned back in her chair. Your wife chose the wrong person to underestimate, Mr. Roscoe. That afternoon, I filed for divorce. Not quietly, not discreetly, but through the proper legal channels with full documentation of adultery, fraud, and conspiracy. In Oregon, fault-based divorce filings are public record. By evening, half the neighborhood knew. Mrs. Stokes called to offer her support and share the latest gossip. That Barnes boy moved out of his house today, she reported. Saw him loading boxes into a U-Haul. His wife was supervising from the front porch, making sure he didn't take anything that wasn't his. Where's he going? Apartment complex on the other side of town, the kind of place college kids rent. Quite a step down from his custom home. Claire called that night, her voice tight with controlled fury. You filed for divorce. Yes. You cited adultery. Among other things. Nate, you're making this harder than it needs to be. We could have handled this quietly, privately. Like you handled the affair, quietly and privately? That's different. Is it? Because from where I sit, you made this public the moment you decided to cheat on me with someone in our social circle. I'm just making sure the public record reflects reality. My lawyer says you can't prove half of what you're claiming. Your lawyer is wrong. But please, by all means, let's go to court. I'd love to have Tyler testify under oath about your creative collaboration. The line went quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Nate? I want you out of my life. I want full custody of Alex, and I want you to understand that actions have consequences. And Tyler? Tyler's not my problem anymore. He's yours. Wednesday brought an interesting development. Tyler, apparently desperate to salvage something from the wreckage of his life, tried to throw Claire under the bus. He called me directly, his voice carrying a mix of desperation and calculation. Nate, we need to talk, man to man. I'm listening. This whole thing, it was Claire's idea. The affair, the plan to get you out of the house, all of it. She seduced me, convinced me you were abusive, said she needed help getting away from you. I almost laughed. And you believed her? She was very convincing, said you had a violent temper, that she was afraid of you. Tyler, I've known Claire for 16 years. She's many things, but she's not a victim, and you're not a hero. I'm trying to make this right. No, you're trying to save yourself. There's a difference. What if I testified against her? Told the court about her plans, her lies? Now I did laugh. You want to confess to conspiracy and adultery in exchange for what exactly? Leniency? I want my life back. Your life is gone, Tyler. You threw it away the moment you decided to sleep with another man's wife and plot against him. The only question now is how much dignity you have left. You son of a bitch! Tyler, let me give you some advice. Stop calling me. Stop trying to negotiate, and start figuring out how to rebuild your life, because the one you had is over. Thursday evening, Alex came home from school with news that made my day. Mom tried to pick me up today, he said, dropping his backpack by the door. Tried? I told her I'd rather walk. She followed me in her car for 3 blocks, trying to get me to talk to her through the window. It was embarrassing. What did she want? To explain her side of things, to tell me you were being unreasonable and cruel. Alex looked at me with an expression that was pure teenage skepticism. She said you were trying to turn me against her. What did you tell her? That she turned me against her all by herself when she cheated on you and lied about it. I felt another surge of pride in my son, mixed with concern about how much this was affecting him. Alex, you know this isn't your fault, right? None of it. Not the affair, not the divorce, not the way things are playing out. I know, Dad, but I also know right from wrong. And what Mom did was wrong. Friday brought the week's grand finale. Claire, apparently deciding that subtle manipulation wasn't working, tried a more direct approach. She showed up at my house with Haley and Morgan in tow, clearly planning some kind of intervention or confrontation. I watched them through my security cameras as they approached the front door, their body language radiating false confidence and barely contained desperation. I opened the door before they could knock. Ladies, to what do I owe the pleasure? We need to talk, Claire announced, pushing past me into the foyer. Actually, we don't. You need to leave. Now. Not until you hear what we have to say, Haley interjected, her voice carrying the kind of righteous indignation that only comes from being completely wrong but absolutely convinced you're right. I'm not interested in anything you have to say, Haley. You helped plan a false domestic abuse claim against me. In some states, that's a felony. Morgan stepped forward, trying to play peacemaker. Nate, we all said things we didn't mean. We were trying to help Claire through a difficult time. By conspiring to frame me for crimes I didn't commit? It wasn't like that, Claire said, but her voice lacked conviction. It was exactly like that. I have the text messages, remember? Your burner phone with months of planning and plotting. Those messages were taken out of context, Haley insisted. What context makes the bruises will be easy enough to fake acceptable, Haley? I'm genuinely curious about your interpretation. The three women exchanged glances, probably realizing that their planned intervention was going off the rails. Look, Claire said, trying to regain control of the situation. We can all move past this. Mistakes were made on both sides. Stop. I held up a hand. Just stop. There were no mistakes on both sides. You cheated, you lied, you plotted against me. I documented it and responded accordingly. Those aren't equivalent actions. You're being vindictive, Morgan accused. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. What do you want from us? Claire asked, her composure finally cracking completely. I want you to leave my house. I want you to stop trying to manipulate my son. And I want you to understand that your actions have consequences that extend beyond your immediate convenience. They left, but not before Haley delivered a parting shot. This isn't over, Nate. Claire has rights. She has friends. She has support. She had a husband who loved her, I replied. She traded that for Tyler Barnes. How's that working out? After they left, I poured myself a drink and reviewed my security footage. 3 women entering my property uninvited, making threats and demands. All recorded, all documented, all potentially useful if this escalated further. My phone rang. Dave Martinez, checking in. Heard you had visitors today. News travels fast. Small town. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Dave. Better than fine. That's what I'm worried about. You sound like you're enjoying this. Maybe I am. Is that wrong? Depends on how far you're planning to take it. I looked out my kitchen window at the house I'd built, the neighborhood I'd been part of for 5 years, the life I'd constructed that was now in ruins because of my wife's betrayal. As far as it takes, I said finally. Just remember, Nate, when you're fighting monsters, make sure you don't become one yourself. Too late for that, Dave. The question now is whether I'm the kind of monster who destroys people for fun, or the kind who does it for justice. And which kind are you? I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. Ask me next week. The nuclear option came to me while I was installing security cameras in Alex's bedroom, not because I didn't trust my son, but because I didn't trust his mother to respect boundaries when she got desperate enough. Claire had been escalating her attempts to contact Alex, showing up at his school, calling his friends' parents, even trying to intercept him at the bus stop. It was harassment, plain and simple, but proving it required documentation. Dad, Alex said, watching me mount the camera in the corner of his room. This feels like overkill. Your mother is desperate, Alex. Desperate people do unpredictable things. You really think she'd try to take me? I think she'd convince herself it was for your own good. That's how people like your mother rationalize their worst impulses. The camera went live, feeding directly to my phone and laptop. Within 6 hours, it proved its worth. I was at a client meeting when the motion alert came through. Claire, using the spare key she apparently hadn't returned, was in Alex's room, going through his belongings. Not looking for anything specific, just violating his privacy because she could. I called Alex immediately. Where are you? At school. Why? Your mother's in the house, in your room. What? How? Spare key. Stay at school. I'm handling this. I called Dave next. I need a police response at my house. Breaking and entering in progress. Nate. Dave. My estranged wife is in my house without permission, going through my son's belongings. I have video evidence. This isn't revenge. It's a legitimate crime. 20 minutes later, I arrived at my house to find Claire sitting in a police cruiser, her face a mask of humiliation and rage. The officer, someone I didn't recognize, was taking notes while Dave supervised. Mr. Roscoe, the young officer said, we've arrested your wife for breaking and entering. She claims she still has rights to the property. She doesn't. We're divorced, and she was specifically told to return all keys. I pulled out my phone, showing the security footage. This is her entering my son's bedroom without permission. Dave watched the video, his expression carefully neutral. That's pretty clear-cut, Nate. Claire looked at me through the cruiser window, her eyes promising retribution. I walked over and tapped on the glass. She rolled it down. This is what happens when you don't respect boundaries, Claire. Actions have consequences. You bastard, you're enjoying this. I'm protecting my son and my property. If you want to call that enjoyment, that's your interpretation. The officer looked between us, clearly uncomfortable with the domestic drama playing out in my driveway. Sir, do you want to press charges? I looked at Claire, really looked at her, seeing the woman who'd shared my bed for 16 years, who'd helped me raise our son, who'd once been my partner in building a life together. Yes, I said, I want to press full charges. Claire's arrest made the local news, not the front page, but a small item in the crime section. Local woman arrested for breaking into estranged husband's home. It included her name, her age, and the charges. By evening, it was trending in every neighborhood Facebook group within a 10-mile radius. Mrs. Stokes had shared the news article with the caption, "Some people have no shame," generating over 200 comments ranging from supportive to savage. Haley tried damage control, posting a long defense of Claire that only made things worse. Claire Roscoe is a good mother and a good friend who made a mistake during a difficult time. The rush to judgment in this community is disappointing. The responses were brutal. Breaking into your ex-husband's house isn't a mistake, it's a crime. Good mothers don't cheat on their children's fathers. Maybe she should have thought about the consequences before she had an affair. Morgan, smarter than Haley, stayed silent. But her silence was its own statement. The rats were abandoning the sinking ship. Tyler, meanwhile, had gone completely underground. His social media accounts were deactivated, his phone went straight to voicemail, and according to Mrs. Stokes, he'd stopped leaving his apartment except for work. Saw him at the grocery store yesterday, she reported during one of our fence line conversations. Looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Kept looking over his shoulder like someone was following him. Guilty conscience, I suggested. Indeed, though I suppose having your entire life fall apart in public would make anyone paranoid. That weekend, Alex asked the question I'd been dreading. Dad, are you happy about what happened to Mom? We were working in the garage together, Alex helping me organize tools while I worked on a custom bookshelf. It was the kind of father-son time we'd always enjoyed, but the conversation was heavier than usual. Happy? No, Alex. I'm not happy about any of this. But you don't seem sad either. I'm sad about the marriage we lost. I'm sad about the family we used to be. But I'm not sad about holding people accountable for their actions. Alex nodded, processing this with the seriousness that had become his default mode since the affair came to light. Do you think Mom will go to jail? Probably not. Breaking and entering is usually a misdemeanor for first-time offenders, especially in domestic situations. She'll likely get probation and community service. Good. Good. I don't want her to go to jail, but I want her to understand that what she did was wrong. To both of us. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good. Monday brought an unexpected visitor. Reese Barnes, Tyler's estranged wife, appeared at my door carrying a bottle of wine and wearing the kind of smile that suggested she had news to share. Nate, I hope you don't mind me dropping by. Not at all. Come in. Reese was an attractive woman in her early 30s, with the kind of quiet intelligence that had probably attracted Tyler before he decided he needed something flashier. She'd been a high school English teacher before her marriage, and she still had that educator's way of speaking precisely and thoughtfully. I wanted to thank you, she said, settling into my living room with the wine between us. Thank me? For exposing Tyler's affair. I know that wasn't your intention, but it saved me from years of wondering why my marriage felt wrong. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Don't be. I'm better off knowing the truth. She smiled, and it was genuine. I also wanted to give you some information that might be useful. What kind of information? Tyler's been in contact with Claire's lawyer. They're planning something. A countersuit, claiming you've been harassing them, interfering with their business, causing emotional distress. On what grounds? The Craigslist posting, the fish in his car, the social media campaign. They think they can prove you orchestrated all of it. I considered this, running through the evidence they might have. Can they? Not legally, but they might be able to create enough doubt to make your life complicated. Reese leaned forward. However, I have something that might help. She pulled out a folder containing printed emails and text messages. Tyler kept records of everything. Every conversation with Claire, every plan they made, every detail of their scheme against you. He thought it was insurance, in case Claire tried to blame him for everything. I flipped through the documents, recognizing some messages from Claire's burner phone, but seeing others for the first time. The scope of their planning was breathtaking. They'd researched divorce law, investigated my business finances, even discussed ways to turn Alex against me. Why are you giving me this? Because Tyler destroyed my life for a woman who was using him, because he thought he was smarter than everyone else and deserved to get away with it. Her voice carried a steel I hadn't expected. and because I want him to understand what it feels like to lose everything. Reese, this is comprehensive? Yes. Tyler was always thorough when it came to documenting other people's weaknesses. He just never considered that his own records might be used against him. After she left, I spent hours reading through Tyler and Claire's correspondence. The casual cruelty was staggering. They'd discussed my weaknesses, laughed about my predictable responses, and planned my destruction with the kind of detail usually reserved for military operations. But they had also documented their own crimes in writing. Conspiracy, fraud, harassment, defamation, all laid out in black and white with timestamps and digital fingerprints. I called Margaret Chen. "I have new evidence," I said. "A lot of it." "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that turns a divorce case into a criminal referral." Margaret's office felt different this time, charged with the electricity of impending victory. She spread Tyler and Claire's communications across her conference table like a general planning a campaign. "Mr. Roscoe, this is extraordinary. They documented everything, every crime, every conspiracy, every fraudulent plan." She looked up at me with something approaching awe. "How did you obtain these?" "Tyler's estranged wife. Apparently he kept copies of everything as insurance against Claire. And she gave them to you voluntarily? She wants Tyler to face consequences for destroying their marriage." Margaret smiled, the kind of smile that made opposing attorneys nervous. "Mr. Roscoe, your wife and her partner have just handed us everything we need to destroy them completely, legally, publicly, and financially. What's our next move? We go nuclear. Criminal referrals to the district attorney's office, civil suits for defamation and conspiracy, and a motion for emergency custody based on your wife's demonstrated instability and criminal behavior. How long will it take? The criminal referrals can be filed today, the civil suits by the end of the week. The custody motion is already in progress." She gathered the documents with obvious satisfaction. "Mr. Roscoe, by the time we're finished, your wife and Tyler Barnes won't just be divorced and unemployed, they'll be facing felony charges. And if they try to claim I harassed them, with this evidence, they'd be laughed out of court. These documents prove they were the architects of their own destruction." That evening, I sat in my kitchen with a beer, looking out at the neighborhood I'd called home for 5 years. Tomorrow, Claire and Tyler's world would begin collapsing in ways they couldn't imagine. Criminal charges, civil suits, public humiliation on a scale that would make their current problems look trivial. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt something colder and more final. The quiet certainty that justice was about to be served. My phone rang. Claire, probably calling to negotiate or threaten or plead, I let it go to voicemail. Whatever she had to say, it was too late. The trap had been set, the evidence was overwhelming, and the consequences were about to begin. Claire Roscoe and Tyler Barnes had wanted to destroy my life. Tomorrow, they'd discover what real destruction looked like. The criminal charges were filed on a Tuesday morning at exactly 9 a.m. By 9:15, Claire was calling my phone in a panic. By 9:30, Tyler was texting threats that would only add to his legal problems. By 10 a.m., both of them had been contacted by detectives from the Portland Police Department's Fraud Division. I know this timeline precisely because Margaret Chen kept me updated throughout the morning, her voice carrying the satisfaction of a prosecutor who just landed a career-making case. "The district attorney's office is treating this as a priority," she reported during our 10:30 call. "Conspiracy to commit fraud, filing false police reports, harassment, defamation. They're looking at potential felony charges for both defendants." "How long before arrests?" "Could be today. The evidence is overwhelming, and both suspects are considered flight risks given their demonstrated willingness to engage in criminal behavior." I was working on a custom kitchen installation when Dave Martinez called. "Nate, I need to give you a heads up. Claire and Tyler are both claiming you're the real criminal here. They're saying you stalked them, harassed them, violated their privacy." "Based on what evidence?" "They don't have evidence. But they're desperate, and desperate people say stupid things. Just be prepared for them to try something dramatic." Dave was right. At 3 p.m., Claire showed up at my client's house, where I was putting the finishing touches on a cabinet installation. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her usually perfect appearance disheveled and wild. "Nate, we need to talk. Now." My client, Mrs. Henderson, was a 70-year-old retired librarian who'd lived through enough drama to recognize it when she saw it. She took one look at Claire and disappeared into her living room, probably to call the police. "Claire, you need to leave. You're trespassing." "I'm not leaving until you fix this. Call off your lawyer, drop the charges, stop this insanity." "The charges aren't mine to drop. They're criminal charges filed by the state based on evidence of your crimes." "What crimes?" "Having an affair? That's not illegal." Conspiracy to commit fraud is illegal. Filing false police reports is illegal. Breaking into my house is illegal. Planning to frame me for domestic abuse is illegal. I continued working while I talked, refusing to give her the dramatic confrontation she wanted. You committed multiple felonies, Claire. The affair was just the beginning. You can't prove any of that. I stopped working and looked at her directly. Claire, I have your burner phone with months of messages. I have Tyler's complete records of your conspiracy, provided by his estranged wife. I have security footage of you breaking into my house. I have witnesses to your harassment of Alex. I paused. What exactly do you think I can't prove? The color drained from her face. Tyler's records? Every email, every text, every plan you made together. Reese Barnes was very thorough when she cleaned out his home office. Claire's legs seemed to give out, and she sat down heavily on Mrs. Henderson's front steps. This can't be happening. It is happening. It's been happening since the moment you decided to betray your family for Tyler Barnes. Everything since then has just been consequences. What do you want from me? I want you to accept responsibility for your actions. I want you to stop trying to manipulate Alex. And I want you to understand that the life you threw away was worth more than whatever you thought you were getting with Tyler. Claire looked up at me with something that might have been genuine remorse. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You planned every step of it. The only thing you didn't plan for was getting caught. Mrs. Henderson appeared in her doorway, cordless phone in hand. Should I call the police, dear? That won't be necessary, I said. Mrs. Roscoe was just leaving. Claire stood up slowly, her movements those of someone who'd aged years in a matter of weeks. Nate, I'm sorry for all of it. I know that doesn't change anything, but I needed to say it. You're right. It doesn't change anything. She walked to her car, got in, and drove away. I watched her go, feeling nothing but a distant sadness for the woman she'd once been and the family we'd once had. Mrs. Henderson invited me in for coffee while I finished her cabinets. That was your wife? She asked. Ex-wife, soon to be officially. She seemed troubled. She made some very poor choices. Now she's facing the consequences. And you? How are you handling all this? I considered the question while I adjusted the cabinet doors, making sure they hung perfectly straight. I'm doing what needs to be done. That evening, Alex came home from school with news that the drama had reached his classmates again. Jenny Morrison says her mom heard that Mom and Mr. Barnes got arrested today. Not arrested, questioned, but probably arrested soon. How do you feel about that? It was the same question Alex had asked me before, but this time I had a clearer answer. I feel like justice is working the way it's supposed to. Your mother and Tyler committed crimes. Now they're facing legal consequences for those crimes. But she's still my mom. She'll always be your mother, Alex. That doesn't change, no matter what happens legally. Will I still be able to see her? Probably, though it might be supervised visits until the courts are satisfied she's not a danger to you. Alex nodded, processing this with the maturity that continually amazed me. Dad, I'm proud of you for not just letting them get away with it. I'm proud of you for handling all this with such grace. You're a better man at 14 than Tyler Barnes is at 32. Thursday brought the arrests. Claire first, taken into custody at her temporary apartment while Haley watched from the parking lot, probably live-tweeting the whole thing. Tyler, 2 hours later, arrested at his office in front of his remaining coworkers and clients. The local news picked up the story this time, running it as the lead item on the evening broadcast. Local couple arrested in elaborate fraud scheme. The reporter, a young woman who'd clearly done her homework, laid out the basic facts. The affair, the conspiracy, the false domestic abuse claims, the breaking and entering. But she also interviewed neighbors, including Mrs. Stokes, who provided colorful commentary on the entire situation. I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years, Mrs. Stokes told the camera, and I've never seen such shameful behavior. That poor man worked hard to build a life for his family, and his wife threw it all away for some gym rat with a fancy car. The story went viral locally, shared across social media platforms with commentary ranging from sympathetic to savage. Claire and Tyler had become cautionary tales, examples of how adultery and greed could destroy lives. Haley tried one last defense of her friend, posting a long Facebook rant about media sensationalism and rush to judgment. It backfired spectacularly, generating hundreds of comments that dissected every aspect of Claire's behavior and Haley's role in enabling it. Morgan, meanwhile, had completely distanced herself from the situation, deleting old social media posts that connected her to Claire and avoiding any public comment on the arrests. Friday evening, I was grilling dinner in my backyard when Dave stopped by, off duty and carrying a six-pack of beer. Thought you might want some company, he said. Always. How's the investigation going? Open and shut. With Tyler's records and your evidence, the DA's office has everything they need. They're talking plea bargains already. What kind of plea bargains? Probably probation for Claire, maybe some jail time for Tyler since he was the primary architect of the fraud scheme. Dave opened a beer and leaned against my deck railing. Either way, they're both looking at criminal records, civil liability, and complete social destruction. Good. You sound satisfied. I am satisfied. They tried to destroy my life, and instead they destroyed their own. That's not revenge, Dave. That's justice. What about Alex? How's he handling his mother's arrest? Better than I expected. He's angry at her, but he's also sad about the whole situation. It's a lot for a 14-year-old to process. And you? What's next for Nate Roscoe? I looked out at my backyard, at the house I'd built, at the life I was reconstructing from the ashes of my marriage. I keep building, keep working, keep being Alex's father. I paused. And I remember this lesson about trusting people who haven't earned it. Sounds lonely. Sounds realistic. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Tyler Barnes, released on bail and looking like he'd aged a decade in the past week. He stood on my front porch, hands shoved in his pockets, the arrogance completely gone. Nate, I need to talk to you. No, you don't. Please. 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the porch, leaving the door open behind me. Tyler looked around nervously, probably checking for security cameras. I want to make a deal, he said. What kind of deal? I'll testify against Claire. Tell the court everything. Whose idea the fraud was, how we planned it, all of it. In exchange, you asked the DA to go easy on me. Tyler, you documented everything yourself. The DA doesn't need your testimony. But it would make their case stronger. Guarantee convictions. The convictions are already guaranteed. You handed them everything they needed when you kept detailed records of your own crimes. Tyler's composure cracked slightly. My life is over, Nate. My marriage, my job, my reputation, all gone. I'm looking at prison time for something that was supposed to be simple. Simple? Get you out of the picture, take over your business contacts, start fresh with Claire. It was supposed to be clean, easy. Clean? You were planning to frame me for domestic abuse. That was Claire's idea. I just went along with it. I stared at him, this man who'd helped destroy my family, now trying to save himself by betraying his co-conspirator. Tyler, you're not a victim here. You're a predator who got outmaneuvered. The only reason you're trying to flip on Claire now is because you finally understand that actions have consequences. So you won't help me? I wouldn't help you if you were on fire and I had the last bucket of water on Earth. Tyler's face hardened, showing a glimpse of the calculating manipulator underneath the desperate act. You think you've won, don't you? You think you're some kind of hero. I think I'm a man who protected his family and his property from people who wanted to destroy both. If that makes me a hero, fine. If it makes me a villain, that's fine too. This isn't over. I laughed. Actually laughed. Tyler, you're facing felony charges. Your wife left you. Your job fired you. Your reputation is destroyed. You're living in a studio apartment and begging your victim for mercy. I paused. How exactly is this not over? He left without another word. That afternoon, Margaret Chen called with the final update. Both defendants have accepted plea bargains, she reported. Claire gets 18 months probation and community service. Tyler gets 6 months in county jail plus 2 years probation. And the civil suits? Total damages of $400,000 plus legal fees. They'll both be financially ruined for years. What about custody? Full custody to you. Supervised visitation for Claire once she completes counseling and anger management courses. I hung up the phone and sat in my kitchen for a long time, processing the end of the longest, most exhausting fight of my life. Alex came home from a friend's house that evening to find me cooking his favorite dinner, homemade pizza with way too much cheese. Special occasion? He asked. The legal stuff is over. Your mom and Tyler pled guilty. We can start moving forward now. How do you feel? Tired, relieved, ready to focus on normal things again? Like what? Like helping you with homework, like building furniture for people who appreciate craftsmanship, like having a life that doesn't revolve around documenting other people's crimes. Alex smiled, the first genuinely happy expression I'd seen from him in months. That sounds good, Dad. We ate pizza and watched a movie, just a father and son enjoying a quiet Saturday night. Outside, the neighborhood went about its business, kids playing, dogs barking, normal families doing normal things. Claire Roscoe and Tyler Barnes had tried to destroy my life. Instead, they'd destroyed their own while teaching me valuable lessons about trust, consequences, and the importance of fighting back when someone tries to take what's yours. They'd wanted to ruin my kingdom. Instead, they'd built their own ruins and handed me the blueprint for justice. It was, I had to admit, a pretty satisfying outcome.